Hereby call this General Purpose and Administration Committee meeting to order. I'd like to ask everyone to please rise for a moment of silence. Please be seated. So follow along with your agenda. 5 matters from closed session have already been dealt with. 6 pecuniary disclosure, pecuniary interest and nature thereof. No pecuniary interest to declare. All right. Next is announcements from council and staff. We'll start with council. Councillor Watton and Councillor Guido, then Councillor Drew, then Councillor Somerville.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to announce that once again Cartwright Sports and Rec will be hosting their annual car show and chili cook-off, and we are anxiously hoping that some candidates may put in their chili for decision making. It's on the 29th of September from 12 till 5, I believe.
Okay, Councillor Guido.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a few announcements that I feel we should highlight today. As we all know, our hospital reopened last week, and it was a joyous event for all of us who attended to celebrate and congratulate not only Lake Ridge Health Port Perry, but also all the employees welcoming them back to home, welcoming them home. It was a great event. In addition to that, this Sunday is the 25th annual Terry Fox Run happening here in Port Perry. There was a beautiful article that was written in one of our local papers that really highlight the history of how it got started here in Port Perry. Registration starts at 8, the walk starts at 9. There's a barbecue afterwards, and it's at leaving from the fairgrounds. Also, I would like to remind everyone to get their tickets to Winding Roads. It's September 22nd, and it goes to support another great local cause here in Port Perry, Scugog. Big Brothers Big Sisters of North Durham put on a fantastic event, so please purchase tickets. You can find them on Facebook. You could also find Margie in the audience, and you can ask her for a ticket. And last but not least, my most favorite event that happens in the fall is the annual Tyler Hanson Street Hockey Memorial. It is September 29th and 30th. I encourage anybody to come out and support somehow, either put a team in or come in and bid on some of their fabulous prizes that they always have. Margie has asked if perhaps several members of council or staff would be interested in potentially doing some sort of a team in there. So I will see what I can do to rally up some troops for that. But regardless, please come out and support this great event. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Next up is Councillor Drew.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Guido, for your excellent announcements. In addition to that, I would like to say a great big thank you to our staff and the volunteers on the Canada Day Committee for an excellent event once again this year. I'd also like to congratulate the Fair Board on both Fair Boards, Blackstock and Port Perry, on excellent fair days this summer. The Community Safety Day yesterday at the North Division Police Station was a great event. It was well attended and a good educational experience for everybody. Thank you.
Councillor Somerville.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Wow, what a busy little community we have, haven't we? September's a very busy month, obviously. Well, I have one more thing to add to our September days. Culture Day will be September the 29th, and Culture Day means arts and crafts. There will be a Culture Day right here below us in the courtyard there, with the arts and crafts, as well as one at Seagrave. And that will be running from 10 until, I think, 4 in the afternoon, but it might be 2. But everyone is welcome. It's a free thing to come to see all our wonderful artisans and what they have to offer and how crafty we are in this little community of ours. So talk about lots of things to do. If you haven't got something in that little agenda, there will be something for everyone. Thank you.
Councillor Kett?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd be remiss to forget about our For Scugog annual golf tournament that will be held this Thursday, the 13th. I'm sure we got room for more foursomes, don't we? We don't. We're all sold out. Beautiful. Thank you.
And we also have on September 22nd at 11 a.m. at 5500 Lake Ridge Road is the groundbreaking ceremony for the NACES, the new animal shelter, Scugog Uxbridge. I always put Scugog first, but Uxbridge Scugog. So if you're available to attend at 11 a.m. on September 22nd, that would be great. That's a long time fundraising project, and we know that that mighty committee of fundraisers had done an excellent job and very persistent, and both the municipality of Uxbridge and Scugog have also bridged the financing so that we could get this build done. So it's a great effort to see this come to fruition. And also I'd like to bring attention that the hot off the press, I still have ink on my fingers from the Scugog Strategic Plan Report update. It will be hitting a newspaper shortly for the beginning of October. So look for that, and we do have some hard copies, but I think we've run out and we're getting some more printed, but it's a great synopsis. Very proud of this when I read it, of all the accomplishments that this council has done over this term. So if you get a chance, keep your eyes out for that. It'll be, as in the past, in the Focus newspaper that you'll get in your mailbox. And any other announcements from council that I've missed? Any announcements from staff? Yes, Director Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I have a few announcements. In recreation, we're very happy that our online registration system is now up and running. So this fall, you don't have to go into the arena to register. You can do it from home if you have internet, and it's going very well so far. The ice is in at the arenas, so things are back into our full fall mode. Construction-wise, Spring Boulevard is now underway, the reconstruction. And Old Simcoe Street from Edinburgh to Line 8 is going to start this week. We also have 3 new crossing guards in place this year. So we've gone from 9 locations to 12 locations. And so far the feedback we've got from the public has been very positive on that. And just one last thing, we have a new staff member I want to introduce. Cameron Murphy is our new Public Works Technologist, and he's in the back there. So that's all.
Great. Welcome aboard, Cameron. Other announcements from Staff Director Valentin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to let everyone know that our budget process for 2019 has begun, and our survey is on our website right now, which will be open from September 1st until the end of September. So I encourage all residents to participate and help us build our budget for 2019. Thank you.
Great. Any other announcements from staff? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the agenda. Item 8, presentations and delegations. We're going to start off with the For Scugog Annual Charity Golf Tournament in support of Youth Initiatives. And what we did differently starting last year is we handed out the recipient checks here at Council instead of at the golf tournament. And so we have a report that's in our agenda talking about the background of the For Scugog Annual Charity Golf Tournament and the funds that is raised over since its inception. It's quite an amazing fundraising venue and event, and the staff that run, of committee of staff and many staff volunteers and other volunteers do an excellent job raising funds for youth initiatives in the township. And every year we have an application process where applicants can apply to receive funds if it's a youth-related program, and we have the checks for this year to hand out. So I would ask the members of the committee that are here to join me in front of the council, and we will hand out the checks to those attendees that are here. So, for those of you who have not attended one of these ceremonies or been at the golf tournament, there's quite a few recipients, and we start off with the For Scugog Bursary Program, Corporate High School. So at the commencement in the end of June, there were 3 bursaries already awarded and handed out to the post-secondary school attendees. So that has already been done. And then next up, we start off with Big Brothers and Big Sisters of North Durham, awarded funds towards their Sixth Science Club group-based mentoring program in Scugog. So Margie, and welcome. Come on here for a nice photo op and a check recipient. So congratulations on receiving funds. And hi, Allie, how you doing?
Allie is one of our littles, or one of my bigs. Allie's just going to talk about the Sixth Science Club, so that she took part in, and just about what it was like and what she did.
So we did different team building things. So we did picnic experiments. And
Was that fun? Yeah, it was really good. And what was your favorite experiment? Volcano. They made a volcano, all of them, so it was really good. So thank you guys very much. We really appreciate this for our program. Have fun at golf.
Thank you. Next recipient is the Blackstock Skating Club. I'm not sure if any representatives here today. Okay, we will get a hold of them afterwards. Next is Lake Scugog Regatta. We don't have a response. I'm not sure if anybody's here for them. And then the Greenbanks Lions Club, which Greenbank and District Lions Club, it's awarded funds to assist the Scugog youth attending the National High School Rodeo Finals. So, you know, Larry's here today. Congratulations on the recipient and doing excellent work for the community.
Thank you.
And the youth.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. Lions work with youth. One of our biggest programs is going into the schools and doing vision screening, free vision screening for senior kindergarten. I have a part-time job looking after 60 Lions clubs, and last year we did 4,000 children. We screened 4,000 children for screening their eyes. Thank you very much.
Next, we have North Durham Minor Hockey Association. We have, I believe it's Beth Stewart here, the recipient. So if you could please join us here, and we're receiving funds to assist with the purchase of goalie equipment for the Tyke Hockey program. Congratulations on being a recipient. Thank you very much.
we have about 900 House League children in our program. It's now mixed between the U word and us, Bridge and Port Perry.
And we actually have 200 in our initiation program and our type program. And of course, I'm actually a goalie mom. No one wants to be a goalie mom because of the cost, so we are actually using this and putting it towards them, and so they can actually try it, and if they love it, they're going to be a goalie family. So, thank you very much.
Next recipient we have is the 41 Army Cadets, Fort Perry, was awarded funding to assist with cadets in school attending a trip to Europe in the year 2020, and we have Sean Taylor, the Vice Chair, here as recipient. Right? Congratulations, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Definitely say thank you. Pose for the picture.
Yeah.
I want to say thank you very much on behalf of all of our cadets, that we try and create the atmosphere that we're out and about. Sometimes it's a lot of us, sometimes it's just a few that we try and get every 3 or 4 years, a big trip, and this is going to hopefully go to get most of our cadets going to Europe in 2020 for the end of the year cadets thing. Just want to also mention they're doing a bottle drive this weekend at the Legion, so if you have any empties, be free. Drop them off. Thank you.
Next, we have the Fort Perry Skating Club, is awarded funds towards their incentive awards for participants, along with funds towards the annual carnival and costumes. And I'm not sure if anybody's here from the Fort Perry Skating Club. See anybody who's stepping forward. Next, we have the Precious Minds, who is awarded funding towards school youth participating in the LEGO Friendship Club and LEGO Robotics program. And from Precious Minds, we have Melissa, is it Rudin? Congratulations on being the recipient.
And just a huge thank you from all of us at Precious Minds. As I'm sure many of you already know, Precious Minds has been supporting children, youth, and young adults in North Durham who have developmental disabilities. And these funds are going towards our LEGO Friendship and our LEGO Robotics program. We actually just just released the registration information for these programs last week, and we're almost already full. So there's a great need in the community, and we're so grateful for your support. Thank you again.
And next up, we have the Young Life North Durham, is awarded funding towards programs for youth in Scugog, and we have Jessica Morrison, who are representative. Jessica, yes. Congratulations on being the recipient.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know what Young Life is, it's a very relational ministry in our community who just comes alongside junior high kids and high school kids and just walks through like the toughest moments of their life and also the best moments. So since last September, we've had over 200 kids come to one of 4 of our clubs in North Durham. And so this money is going towards making sure that continues to happen in our community. So thank you for all that you guys do as well.
And there were other youth projects that the Forest School, there's some allocation of funds that's directed to a specific fund that will be used for municipal youth infrastructure for youth, especially upcoming youth initiatives. And I just want to take this time to clarify and really give a special thanks and appreciation to all the staff members that really take this on, and this is really a staff-led initiative with volunteers helping out and counselors who volunteer and participate, but it's a staff-led program. So I want to make sure that the credit is given where credit is due, and this money is raised from all the hard work that you guys have done in the community. Thank you very much. Thank you.
The application process will start in the spring of 2019 for the funds raised at this year's fest.
Great, thanks very much. Next up on the agenda, we have a delegation from Mr. Howard Danson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Danson. I know you know the drill. It's
Yep.
5 minutes. And
I'll try and keep it to that today. You recall, Mr. Mayor, that last November I made a presentation to Council about Mr. Kett's mileage claims. Among other things, I pointed out the double billing to the township for mileage that had already been paid by Kawartha Conservation Authority, as well as personal mileage from his home to his place of work, to which he was not entitled. Several things became obvious to me during my presentation. First, it was obvious that no other councillors seemed to know about the double billing issue, and if I hadn't raised it via Freedom of Information request, I suspect only the mayor and a few senior staff would ever have been aware of this serious issue. It appeared to have been kept quiet from everyone, including the taxpayers of Scugog. And it's almost certain that the issue of Mr. Kett's personal mileage claims would never have been raised, since they had all been previously approved by senior management. It was obvious to me that the mayor did not seem to be familiar with the Canada Revenue Agency regulation that disallows personal mileage, nor did he seem to be aware of the then Treasurer's email setting out the rules for claiming mileage that were sent to all councillors at the beginning of their term. If he was aware, then why did he allow Mr. Kett to claim 2 years of personal mileage to which he was clearly not entitled? And the question must be asked, why did the township's chief administrative officers sign off on those claims when surely they knew the rules? For the record, Mr. Kett was invoiced for the double billing of $1,189 in March of 2017, but the township was not fully reimbursed until October 2017, a full 7 months later. Mr. Kett did not reimburse the township promptly or willingly because he made the staff wait to recover the money from an expense claim he filed in October. The fact that the mayor allowed him to do this is important and pertinent to my presentation today. Last November, I asked for an independent audit of Mr. Kett's expenses, but the mayor said he preferred to review them personally instead. This was completely inappropriate in my view, because the mayor was Mr. Kett's supervisor, and it was he who allowed Mr. Kett to make all of these claims in the first place. It was a clear conflict of interest. The mayor promised to report his findings to council by the end of February 2018. The mayor failed to do this. I believed I had a right to know the status of the mayor's review, since it was me that brought these issues to his attention in the first place. Consequently, I sent several requests to the mayor's office asking to meet with him to discuss the status of his review. The mayor never responded to me, so I had to come here to get my questions answered. The mayor did report to council at the end of June, and he cited several reasons for being 4 months late. Whatever those reasons were, the fact is, it took the mayor 7 months to identify approximately $2,430 in mileage claims that, in his opinion, should never have been approved. From the records provided, it does not appear that the mayor reviewed the blatant overbilling of mileage in connection with the trips to the KRCA office in Lindsay that I pointed out last November. So I wonder how complete this review was. The mayor ordered Mr. Kett to reimburse the township within 30 days. I wonder if the mayor realizes his own partial culpability in this issue and how important it is for him to make sure that these monies are reimbursed to the taxpayers of Scugog before the end of this term of council. So my questions today are, has Mr. Kett reimbursed the township fully? And if not, what is the plan to ensure that he does this before the end of this term of council? I've just shown you how long and by what means it took the staff to get the double billing money from Mr. Kett in 2017. It's one thing for the mayor to order Mr. Kett to reimburse the township, but it may be something different to actually retrieve the money. I would remind you all again that these are tax dollars that belong to the residents of Scugog. That's my presentation, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I'll answer the best of my ability the stuff you'd raised, Mr. Howard. I did do a follow-up meeting with yourself and a couple other requests, and then there were through a process. So I know what your opinion was, is that you should have felt that it should have been part of it, but I really was trying to make this an arm's length review.
That I should have been part of it?
No, part of the report that I do to council. It's a report that I was doing that was struck. So.
I didn't think I should be a part of that, no.
No, but I thought you said I should have,
well, just normal decency would be to respond to me.
Until it came to council, that's the response that was being implemented. But I don't want to get into all the details here. What really is a process that we come down to is we have, and it was identified through FOI, through yourself, and it was followed up with reports to council and an investigation, which at the time I took on because the auditor had made opinions on our own auditor, accountant had made opinions on general expenses and processes, and to spend $20,000 on an estimated detailed audit, ballpark, it was around 15 to 20,000, if I recall correctly, and I don't have the number exact in front of me. It was a significant amount to look into questionable claims of, I believe it was around 4,000 or so. And to me, it was not good use of taxpayers' money when we're looking at that. So to say that we're going to look into something, spend a lot of money to look into something, so it was something that I had suggested. To me, I would not feel comfortable going to the public to say that, you know, we're going to spend all this money to look at something to get a smaller amount of money back if there were any deficiencies, and so and errors and misclaims, etc. And I don't want to get into all the details. I had done my report on that one at the in June, but I do want to let you know that we did strengthen the policies through all of this process, and before you would come as a delegation, our policies were strengthened, and a lot of the questions you had were before those policies were strengthened. So we had identified that as
I don't want to cut you off, but I mean, the Canada Revenue Agency regulations and the Treasurer's email to all the councillors at the beginning of your term of council clearly said you can't have personal mileage. So I'm not worried about, I know you've strengthened everything, I know you've put those things in place, that has no bearing on this.
And just so you know, the whole, and as you're aware, I mean, I'm not sure exactly you had the same process when you're submitting it, that the councillors submit their expenses, and there is an honor basis where you submit your expenses, and if it's signed off, and then it's submitted for reimbursement. And it happens at other councils and other townships throughout where there's, if somebody has submitted an expense for something and somebody's questioned it, then it's up to the councillor to make sure that they are submitting expenses that are allowable. And so it's after strengthening the policies that we have a process that's in place that requires my sign-off on it for all the councillors. So, I mean, we really have strengthened the policies, and we've done that for a great many items and areas of questions. So, I feel like the report that was done was very fair, and it requested the reimbursement, and the repayment of that will go through the process like every other account. I'll have the Director of Finance just state the steps that go through on your question about payment of the accounts that are outstanding, so.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The process that finance goes through, if it is an employee or member of council, if we have to recover any funds, first of all, we would look to any expense items or expense reports that are brought forward that we would offset to outstanding expenses. Second option we have is to add these outstanding payments to a tax roll. And thirdly, we could go to a collection agency to help collect the outstanding funds.
So, are there questions from council at all for Mr. Danton?
Well, Mr. Mayor, the basic question I asked you, has Mr. Kett repaid the money?
I would look to the Director of Finance to answer that question, because...
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
That's my question here.
Yeah, no, and then I'll follow up with a response or comment on that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, at this point, no, the invoice is still outstanding.
So, as you know, interest will accrue on the bill like any other account, and then, as Director Valentine had mentioned, any submitted expenses would be offset against that, and there are certain laws and guidelines that we have to follow in order to get payment on any account that's outstanding. So, the steps were outlined by the Director, and there was a conference that was in the August to AMO, so there would be expenses that would be submitted for reimbursement. They will go offset against that, any outstanding accounts or bills of any bills that are outstanding from any counselor. So don't know if that answers your question or not.
Well, obviously it doesn't, because whatever expenses were paid out to AMO, they're not going to equal $2,430.
And I don't have, because if the counselors haven't submitted their expenses yet, I don't know what they are, and I don't know, they have to fall within our guidelines on what's the eligible expense, like mileage, et cetera, that gets offset against that. So it's really, we won't have those numbers yet until they're submitted, and it'll keep accruing interest on the outstanding balance that's not paid. And then next steps that follow, which the Director of the Finance Department takes care of that. So, Councillor Watton?
I just have a question, if it can be directed to Diane.
Sure.
Could the, based on what...
Sorry. Could the outstanding invoice be just paid without going through the other process of expenses, et cetera?
To you, Mr. Mayor, yes.
Okay, thank you.
It's your, Councillor Kett, it's your,
Thank you, Mayor.
decision if you want to speak to something,
Yes, I would just like to make a couple of points here. Number one, Mr. Danson claimed that he was a forensic auditor, and I'm just wondering why he wouldn't check that the KRCA monies wasn't paid to me, but it was actually paid to you. So I haven't received a check yet. Other than that, Mr. Danson, it's all paid.
Well,
that's your answer right there.
It's all paid, that's fine.
It's all
why
paid.
I came here to ask the question. As
If you
Mr.
would-
Kett repaid the $2,430.
What I'd like to
you
find out,
identified.
Mr. Danson, is why you wouldn't just go to staff and ask, or
It's not up to me
apparently
to
you
go
have to have an FOI to find out this information, but it's all paid. If you want to look at the invoice right here. If you're not grandstanding, then let me know. Oh, upside down, sorry.
And just to correct you, I wasn't a forensic auditor.
2460 was paid.
So,
There seems
might
to
have
be
been
some
paid
doubt
today.
as to whether this has been paid or
It's
not.
just a communication thing, Mr. Danson, and we'd like to thank you for bringing our attention to all the items that you have. So it's not a pecuniary interest, Mr. Mayor.
Okay?
And I'd like Mr. Danson to also know that the CRA does not include politicians. The Employment Standards Act says politicians are not employees. We did not have a policy, and I claimed it. I didn't claim it. But you know, as a forensic auditor, that there was between 6 and 4 authorizations on every one of those, and none of them were my signature.
That's right.
Okay, so I want you to know that CRA doesn't include politicians as employees, so whatever was brought out on this the report that the mayor made has nothing to, is moot. All right, so, I mean, it's according to the employment standards. There was no policy. I put the mileages in. They were signed by everybody except myself, and they've all been repaid. So hopefully that'll satisfy you, and that's it, thanks.
So, Councilor Cat, just so you can clarify the record, when was that paid, so that was it paid today?
Yes.
Okay, so that's why we weren't aware before, we've been in a closed session.
And I rushed in with cash, so there couldn't be any questions.
So it's paid, and as far as my review on the report, since Councilor Kidd mentioned it, is I went through the actual document that was there, and elected officials are treated the same as hold office, but it's, as you know, it's a 42-page document and all that, so to look at that, that's what I used for the basis of the report, because I wanted to make sure that it was done as objectively as possible. So, thank you very much, Mr. Danson, for your delegation, and we'll look for, we have a motion here to receive the delegation, be received, moved by Councilor Watton. We need a seconder for that. Councilor Somerville, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Councilor Somerville?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say something about this whole situation, because it's been highlighted by the fact that there's our expense accounting that could be improved with council here. Example, when we carpool to our resource, to save resources, someone may compensate a passenger for mileage, and thinking that they drove as well. So there's 2 people that could think that. Or someone could be allocated funds to allow them to attend a conference, but who's to say they even attended that conference? So I think there's opportunities to strengthen and clarify our procedures, and I would like to see this done. I don't know, I think we've got some problems, and starting point is to ask the staff, please, to review the policies and the procedures, and if we need to make a motion to this effect. This was all discussed at an earlier meeting, because I brought it back up when this was presented, when audits of all the council and senior staff were mentioned, and but I couldn't talk to those matters, so I'd like to see if we can clear it up now, and if necessary, I'll ask if we make a motion, a notice of motion to ensure that the next term of council is fully informed and clear on their expenses.
Okay, and I'll revisit that when we get to that part of the agenda, so that
Yes.
if you want to make a notice of motion, we can take care of it.
I would like that, thank you.
No, so, right,
Next meeting?
the next meeting, so
Next week.
have it ready for next week, and
That's
or for the
perfect.
deadline for tomorrow is the cutoff, so if you can work with JP to
I'll
make
see you
sure you've got the
afterwards.
time
Thank you.
deadlines there. But you know, it's been duly noted what you've stated, and we can follow up with the formal motion if need be. Next part of the agenda is the consent agenda. So I have some pre-pulled items, and I'll start off with naming them off. First one is pulled by Councilor Drew, is 9.1.1, the GPA minutes from June 4th. Next, I have 9.2.7, pulled by Councilor Somerville, which is the DocuPet proposed dog licensing. 9.3.1, pulled by Councilor Drew, which is the firearm offenses. 9.3.2, which is pulled by Councilor Somerville on the Integrity Commissioner annual report. 9.3.4 is the Rural Fire Services correspondence, pulled by Councilor Drew. And then 9.3.5, which is the display and distribution of objectionable images, pulled by Councilor Drew. Any other items that wish to be pulled by council? Seeing none, I have a mover and seconder that the items listed under Section 9 consent agenda be approved, save and accept the items already listed. Moved by Councillor Watton, seconded by Councillor Somerville. All those in favor? Carried. So the first item is 9.1.1. Councillor Drew.
Thank you. I'm just wondering, what has happened with the decorative lights? I'm trying to find it, the page number in here, but the decorative lights in the business, this would be business arising from the minutes.
So that's the grant that was received for
Yeah.
decorative lights. Director Coleman, do you have any update on that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, right now, we're going to start replacing all the decorative lights with LEDs, and we've looked at whether it's financially cost-effective to do that as the same contract as replacing the post with this grant. And we've been recommended by the contractor doing that work that they said it's not the cheapest way to go with us. So we need to do a separate tender for the light posts. So they will be done after the LED fixtures are done. So they'll be a little bit behind them, but we are coordinating that, and it will be done perhaps over the late fall or winter period.
Okay. Further, if I might, will our grant still be available to us then?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, yes, it's available.
Thank you.
And before I ask if there's any other questions, the minutes to be adopted were moved by Councillor Guido, seconded by Councillor Drew. Any other questions on the minutes? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Next item pulled is 9.2.7, pulled by Councillor Somerville, moved by Councillor Somerville, seconded by Councillor Guido, the recommended motion. Councillor Somerville?
Just a question on this one. Is this renewed annually, or is this a contract with the DocuPet deal? I think it's a great idea, but I just want to know if we're going to renew it annually.
Mr. Heritage?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Somerville, it will not require being renewed annually once we're into the contract, but it is, you can opt out at any time within I don't have the contract, but within specifications of that contract.
Perfect. Now, are they going to go door to door, or how are they going to figure out who's got dogs?
So the shelter will provide them with the current licenses that we have. They will take that information and they will send out notices to those individuals. Once that is done, they will be going door to door, more from not necessarily from obviously an enforcement standpoint, but from an education and just a sales standpoint. They make their money by increasing our licenses. That's the benefit of this particular group, is that if they're not selling more and increasing the actual dogs licensed within the township, then they're not making any additional funds whatsoever.
No. Okay, that's good. Thank you. I just was wondering about that one. Thanks.
Councillor Drew?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If in the future, this council or the next council decides to go into cat licensing, can they accommodate that as well?
Now, I've come into this relatively late. This has been looked at in prior years, but I have taken some time to look into their website, and they do indicate, yes, that they do licensing. It's a pet licensing service.
Okay, thank you.
And from what I recall from this, when it was first brought up, was that they utilize quite a technologically advanced platform, so renewals and emails and reminder, because that's a simple thing where many of the residents I talk to, if they didn't pay, it's purely by accident because they've forgotten to pay and get their license, and then it's 3/4 of the way through the year, so then they say, well, I'm this close to the next year, that they just get it then. So I think it's great even as an enhanced reminder tool, so I think that'll be good, because I don't think there's intentionally many people that are not licensing the dogs, so.
That's correct, and I spoke with the town of Georgina, who's only been on the program for approximately a month and a half when I spoke to them, and they had indicated, I think the number was something like 68 licenses in that month and a half period that had come through the new online platform that in their eyes
they would not have received had they not have had that access and that availability.
Right. And is it also doing an extra enhanced communication for, you know, if lost dogs? Is there like an online database it'll help make it easier for the shelter staff members?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Their process gives our community immediate access because pet owners have the ability to put as little or as much information online as they choose. So when they register their pet, they can have a contact phone number. And so someone who finds that pet can now go online and provided the pet owner has given information, can get immediate contact to get that animal home. So in the from a service standpoint for our community, it's wonderful. We get the animals home quickly and easily, but from the backside, those animals aren't going into the shelter. So there's, over a period of time, having worked in shelters in the past and understanding the costs, there is potential to see significant cost savings through this as well.
Can they also upload pictures of their pets to their profile?
They can post pictures of their pets as well. Again, all of that is at the decision of the pet owner, how much information they put on there.
And the reason why I'm asking these questions, because I think it really should be messaged that way too, and especially if the media is picking up on the DocuPet and the licensing, you could, I don't want it to take a negative side that there's going to be more, you know, more people involved. This platform could enhance, you know, people, you know, losing their pets, you know, runaways that lost dogs, that if it enhanced them, returning them that much sooner, as you said, then it's a great feature that people, many of the residents would be very pleased to provide that extra discretionary information, so that just in case if their dog is goes missing. So
yes, very much so.
Great. Any other questions for? All right. Thank you for bringing that forward. Moved by Councilor Summers, second by Councilor Guido, the recommendation that the DocuPet, the information be received, and that to set up the online licensing through DocuPet beginning in 2019, and that Mayor and Clerk be authorized to sign and execute. All those in favor? Carried. Next item is the, pulled by Councilor Drew, which is the 9.3.1, the upholding maximum sentence correspondence for firearms offenses. Councilor Drew, we need a seconder for this. Moved by Councilor Drew, second by Councilor Watton, and it was actually moved as endorsed. You okay, Councilor? Okay. So, Councilor Drew?
Thank you. As you can see, it's on page 115, all the whereases, and I think that anybody that's been following the news is become aware that there has been a lot more gun violence in the last 6 months to a year, and the region has taken some action on this, and I would move that we endorse this.
Which is so duly moved. Any other questions on the endorsement of the letter? Councilor Kett?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like Councilor Drew to explain again what she just said.
If you check on page 115, there are some whereases there, and if you've been following the news in the last year or so, it's become evident that there's a lot more gun violence in the GTA in particular, but actually all over Canada. So we, the region of Durham, took a stand on this, and I'm asking that Google follow suit. We've noticed it in the police files in your region as well.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
I'd like to, yeah. So, I'm really not understanding, like, I understand that they want to fine people or whatever for having firearms or offenses, but I mean, aren't the offenses against people? That they're...
If you look on page 115...
I'm on 115.
Okay, the last paragraph, it talks about reassessing the firearm legislation and asking the Attorney General to provide assurance that the issue is being addressed.
And I don't understand the issue.
are you in favor of the gun legislation as it is right now? If so, I mean, I would suggest that you vote against the motion.
Councilor Kett, the motion is to endorse the correspondence that was sent by the region.
I understand that. What I'm asking is that they're not, what they're asking for is to reinforce, I can't find it now. 115, there we go.
If I might, on page 116, it further says that the programs necessary to stop the importation and removal of street-level guns be adequately resourced and funded. So what they're asking for, and what I'm asking for this council to endorse, is that we ask the Attorney General to reassess the firearm legislation and have a look at the programs that are necessary to stop the importation of guns, and that it would be adequately resourced.
I still don't understand it. So.
All right, so we'll continue. Any other questions on that? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Next item being pulled is 9.3.4, Councilor Drew, 9.3.2, sorry, I have the right one here. Councilor Somerville, are you pulling it and endorsing it?
I'm just pulling it to endorse it.
Endorse, okay, so instead of receives, endorse, so it's moved, the recommended motion to, but endorsing the correspondence. I need a seconder for that. Councilor Watton. Councilor Somerville, did you want to speak to that letter or ask questions?
No, no, because I think it says it all in the letter, but I think we need to endorse this, and just because it's the Integrity Commissioner, and it tells you everything that he's doing and where he's at and what's happening. I think it's a great idea.
Any other questions on that? All right. Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Next item was 9.3.4, pulled by Councilor Drew. That's what I was thinking was endorsed. So moved by Councilor Drew, second by Councilor Watton, that the correspondence 23218 be endorsed. Councilor Drew.
I don't think it needs any clarification. I did speak to the chief about this, and if he would like to comment on it, I'd be fine.
I was going to ask him to just comment, because I asked him the same thing, so just provide your...
Through you, Your Worship, I would encourage council to endorse it.
Any questions for the chief or on the correspondence? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Next item, 9.3.5, pulled by Councilor Drew, moved by Councilor Drew. The recommended motion, need a seconder for this motion, which is to be received and endorsed. Okay, so received and endorsed. Seconder for this item, which is the displayed distribution of objectionable images. Councilor Watton, seconding it. Councilor Drew, do you want to speak to the
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Periodically, we've had this situation happen in Scugog Township, and my phone is ringing off the hook when that happens, you know, especially on 7A and in areas where children are coming home or going to school. It's very upsetting. So I would move to endorse it. I believe in freedom of speech and all of that, but I think this was some of these images that are displayed are just going over the top.
And just to summarize, the correspondence is asking for that the Honorable Carolyn Mulroney, Attorney General, urged the Province of Ontario to limit and regulate display and distribution of poster signs and leaflets that contain disturbing images. Yes. And that is open for interpretation, but to make sure that it is not offensive. Any questions on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. And that brings us to the end of the consent agenda. Councillor Kett?
Just a friendly question again regarding 9.3.1, and please put up with me here, Councillor Drew. But it says upholding maximum sentences for firearm offenses under the criminal code. But to me, if they're not upholding the total offense, why do we need to get into it? Shouldn't it just be the Ontario government that says, stop letting them away with these offenses? Because, I mean, obviously, the way we've got it worded here, it just says to uphold the maximum sentence. Like, I totally agree that if there's anything done with a gun, that we would uphold the highest sentence. So I'm just not sure why we have to, or what we can do, number one, but I'm just not sure why it's upholding maximum sentences for firearms under the criminal code. I mean, isn't that a simple thing as to just tell the judges and they uphold it?
Well, so that if it was endorsing to put the regional's letter that was saying, yes, we support the extra funds and the tightening of the regulations. That's all it is saying, is that we support it as well. And you would think that all the GTA municipalities should support it, or all municipalities should support a strengthening to reduce the gun violence, because, I mean, even hearing gun violence is escalating significantly, and it seems like every other day we're hearing major gun violence.
I don't disagree with that.
That's the overarching theme of it. I don't think it's to get into semantics on how to...
No, what I'm saying here is the thing that confused me, it was upholding maximum sentences, which I agree they should, but I think it would be as easy as just telling the judges to uphold the sentences. But it gets into, the motion actually gets into other things, so anyways, I'm fine with that.
So we're on to next item in the business is item 12, the new business, which we have the proclamations issued by the Mayor's Office for August, September, and November. So I have that the proclamations issued be received. Moved by Councillor Guido. Needs a seconder for that. Councillor Somerville. Any questions on the proclamations? Councillor Somerville? No? All right. Seeing none. All those in favor? Carried. Other new business, Councillor Somerville?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, again. I was wondering, and perhaps senior management could answer this question, whether we have any feedback on the letters that were sent back in May 29th to the Minister of Tourism, the Minister of Agriculture, as well as the Minister of Canadian Heritage, regarding the support for the old mill. Although there's a change in the provincial government, and I know that, I'd still expect the ministries to respond to these letters. The federal ministers of Canadian Heritage should certainly have responded by now, and I'd like to know if we have any opportunity to follow up with these letters.
Director Heritage?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, staff can certainly look into that and get back to council on that.
Thank you.
Any other new business? All right. Seeing none, we have a motion to adjourn, moved by Councillor Guido, seconded by Councillor Kett. All those in favor? Carried.